After that tournament, for almost a year, he didn't participate in any official match. It wasn't because he didn't want to play, but more like he couldn't. He was too young to participate in official matches, and only from elementary level he'd be able to participate in the inter-school tournaments for elementary level. Though he'd still have to wait for a few years to participate in the middle school and high school level inter-school national tournament held in all over Japan. National tournaments are held every year between the regional champions of Japan. National tournament, as the name suggested, is a tournament held between the different schools in Japan to compete for the glory of it being the strongest footballing school in all over Japan. The tournament is held for all levels of school, i.e. elementary school, middle school, and high school level. As Japan is divided into 47 prefectures and 8 regions, there are countless schools who participate in the tournament just to make it to the national. And making into the national isn't an easy feat. Countless schools from different prefectures compete among themselves to come out as victor of their respective prefectures. And just becoming a prefectural champion won't guarantee the spot for the nationals, as they would still need to defeat other prefectural champions to represent their region. And finally, after defeating other prefectural champions, the respective school would be able to participate in the national tournament. For example, Hiro, who resides in Tokushima Prefecture, is a part of the Shikoku region, and in his region alone, there are 4 prefectures, which is one of the lowest in Japan. For his school to make it to the national, firstly, they would need to become the prefectural champions by defeating several schools from his prefecture, and after that, they would need to defeat 3 more teams to make it to the nationals. Similarly, Tokyo Prefecture, which lies in Kanto region, has 7 prefecture. So if any school from Tokyo want to make it to the nationals, they would need to defeat 6 more schools from other prefectures in order to reach the national. Well, technically, they wouldn't need to compete against all the teams in the region, as a draw would take place, and they would play matches in knockout format to become the regional champions. The system does seem kind of flawed and unfair for the region, where there are a lot of prefectures, but nobody can say or do anything about it. That's how the system goes after all. There's also other tournaments beside national tournament. However, national tournament is regarded as the supreme among any other tournament for school-level tournaments. Winning the national tournament, or even making it to the nationals, is a huge achievement for any school. The schools who have won the tournament or made it to the national multiple times are very reputed school. Just by winning or making it to the nationals, the reputation of the respective school would soar to heavens. Thus, the schools in Japan would go crazy over talented players. They would send their scouts in almost every tournament held in the prefecture to scout the most talented individuals. And after scouting, they would offer ridiculous scholarship for the player if the player met their standards. The system in Japan is similar to that of the business module followed by professional football teams. What school should I attend? Hiro wondered. After graduating from the kindergarten, while lying in his bed, he was wondering about the elementary school he wanted to attend. To avoid his past mistakes, he wanted to choose a different school than his previous life. Let's think about that after a while. I haven't observed my stats for a while. Shall we see what progress I've made after tirelessly completing the daily mission given by that freaking system? He contemplated. For almost a whole year without any breaks, he completed the task given by the system. Even though he failed miserably during his early days, he got a hang of it after repeating the same actions every day. Damn, I don't want to remember that. He stuttered as he remembered the hardships he had to endure during his earlier days. A shiver ran down his spine as he remembered about the moment when he got electrocuted. Because of the shock, he would return home completely tattered. Seeing his miserable condition, his mother couldn't help but worry about him. For the past year, he got scolded countless times by his mother. There were even moments when she banned him from going outside. However, due to his father's effort, he could still train properly. Somehow, after training for a while, he noticed a loophole in the system. Since he had school at 8, he needed to wake up early in the morning to complete half of the sets given by the system. And later in the evening, he could complete the other half and finally complete the daily mission given by the system. Making use of the loophole, he avoided electrocution and also his mother's wrath. Status window, basic information. Name, Takahashi Hiro. Age, 6 years old. Weight, 21 kilograms. Height, 4 feet. Potential, SSS. Attribute point, 10.05. Roulette tickets, 0. Skills, focus. Title, Master of the Talent Copying System, Regressor. One who possess ethereal talent. Attributes, physical, 31 100ths grade, D. Dribbling, 69 100ths. Grade, B. Pace, 44 100ths grade, C. Passing, 55 100ths grade, C+. Shooting, 57 100ths, grade, C+. Defending, 29 100ths, grade D. Mentality, 49 100ths, grade C. IQ, 74 100ths, grade B+. Overall grade, C. I still have a lot of unallocated attribute points, but I'll save it for later, Hero mumbled. After training hard for almost a year, he had increased his stats tremendously with the help of System. By now, he could have easily made it to under 13 national team if he tried for it. However, he was still very young for that. To play in under 13 national team, the minimum requirement was that the player needed to be at least 8 years old. However, he was only 6 years old. As he was wondering about the elementary school he could attend, his mind wandered somewhere else. Should I actually apply for a youth club instead? He wondered. Maybe joining La Masia wouldn't be a dream if I could attend a trial. He started to dwell in his fantasies. The dinner's ready. Come down, Hero. He heard his mother calling his name. And that voice brought him back to reality. And the reality was that he was still poor. His family couldn't afford a trip to Europe, and the European scouts didn't come to Japan around that time. It would still require a lot of time before the world would take notice of Japan. Although Japan was considered a powerhouse football team in Asia, it was nowhere near world level. It was just another average team in the world. And European scouts rarely made their way towards Japan to scout the player. Maybe I should try to win the nationals first, and we'll think of the future afterwards. For now, let's focus on the nationals, he mumbled as he left his room. Thank you for the food, he prayed as he prepared to eat the dinner prepared by his mother. It was plain dinner with rice and few side dishes made up of fish and potato. As he stuffed the food in his mouth, his mother questioned him, "Which school do you want to attend, Hero?" Nom. I am not sure yet, he replied while chewing. Let him complete his dinner first and we'll talk about that later, his father interrupted. And finally, after completing dinner, all three of them sat at the dining table to talk about his decision. Tokushima Elementary School is the nearest one, so why don't you attend that school? His mother exclaimed. It was the same school he had attended in his previous life, so he was somewhat hesitant of attending the same school once again. Plus, there was no football team in Tokushima Elementary School, and it would take another 2 years for the school to gather players required to form a football team. Thus, he was somewhat hesitant of joining Tokushima Elementary School. Honey, don't pressure him. Let him decide on the school that he wants to attend. His father spoke in a soft tone. But it's the closest school in the neighborhood, so I think it'd be better for him to attend it. And how can a kid who's barely 6 years old even decide for himself? His mother argued. Seeing her irritated face, his father went silent. Even if he was the man of the house, his mother was the one who made the decisions. But Mom, the school doesn't even have a football team. Hero tried to resist his mother's decision. So what about it? You are going to school for studies, not for football, his mother yelled. Seeing her response, he knew that he wouldn't be able to convince her. She was adamant about her decisions. But even so, he didn't want to waste his 6 precious years in a school with no football team. Even though he could still play football and train in the park, but that wouldn't help him develop as a player. What he needed was practical experience, and he wouldn't gain experience by playing disorganized, friendly matches. So it's final. You're going to Tokushima Elementary School. As she was about to finish the conversation, his father interrupted. Actually, Hiro has received scouting offers from Rondon Elementary School, Karasuno Elementary School, and Ukami Elementary School. Huh. Why didn't you tell me, Dad? As the topic of the school that wanted to scout him was brought onto the table, Hiro got mad at his father for hiding the information from him. Rondon Elementary School was a non-profit school funded by the various charitable trusts in London, and currently it was the best school in Tokushima Prefecture for football. Although it had never won the Nationals, but it had made it to the Nationals several times. For past 7 years, it had been dominating the prefectural competitions and making it to the regionals. And for past 2 years, it had continuously reached the Nationals. It was a powerhouse elementary-level football school in all over Tokushima Prefecture. Although Karasuno Elementary School have failed to qualify for the regionals for past 2 years because of Rondon Elementary School, it was still regarded as one of the powerhouse elementary-level football school in Tokushima Prefecture, just like Rondon Elementary School. And unlike Rondon Elementary School, it had actually won the Nationals once, a long time ago. But what surprised him even more was to receive offer from the newly formed elementary school, i.e. Ukami Elementary School. Although it was still a newly formed school, having knowledge of the future, Hiro knew about the potential of that newly formed school. Due to its excellent scouting, the school would gather countless exceptional talents and go on to challenge both Rondon Elementary School and Karasuno Elementary School for the spot in Nationals. However, it would always fall short to grab the spot for Nationals. After thinking for a while, his mother spoke. But both Rondon and Karasuno Elementary School are far away from here. So who'll escort Hiro to school? You and I both have jobs. Hiro knew that if he remained silent, his mother would send him to Tokushima Elementary School. And before that happened, he needed to raise his voice. But what about Okami Elementary School? Hiro mumbled. What about it? It's not that far away from here, and it's only 30 minutes away from bike. Hiro tried to persuade his mother. But since it's a private school, the fees must be ridiculously expensive. His mother replied with a worried face. Actually, you don't have to worry about that matter. All three of the schools have offered him sports scholarship, so we won't need to pay a single yen. Huh, you're not joking, right, dear? If you are, then don't even think about having a single sip of beer for an entire month. No, I'm not joking. I'm telling the truth. They are offering him full scholarship. His father replied in a flustered tone. As soon as she heard about scholarship, the expression in her face quickly changed. Just like chameleon changing its color. His mother's expression changed as soon as she heard about scholarship. He knew for a fact that his mother was very fond of money, and she was that cheapskate who'd buy tons of items if they were offered for sale, even if they didn't need it. We'll go visit them tomorrow, his mother concluded. And just like that, it was decided that he would attend Ukami Elementary School. Even though Hiro wanted to attend Rondon Elementary School or Karasuno Elementary School, he was still satisfied with attending Ukami Elementary School rather than Tokushima Elementary School. And the next day early in the morning, Hiro set out to Ukami Elementary School with his parents. Both of their parents applied for a leave to accompany him to the school. They left their home at 10 a.m. and took a train to the school. It would have taken them longer if they were to bike to the school, but since they took a train to commute to the school, they reached their destination in only 10 minutes. At 10:20, they stood in front of the Okami Elementary School's main gate. The school was huge and covered a lot of area. Although it was in a remote location, the chatters of the students could be heard even from outside the gate. After exiting the train, they needed to hike for 5 minutes to reach the school. Ukami Elementary School was located at the top of a hill. Who are you? And what's your purpose for visiting the school? A middle-aged man dressed in a guard uniform stopped them as they tried to enter the school. Sorry for bothering you, but we're actually here for the admission of our son, his father replied in a gentle manner. The man then casted a glance at Hiro, who was neatly dressed in a black shirt and beige color linen half pant. The admission process hasn't started yet. So why are you here so early? The guard replied. Honey, don't tell me that you haven't talked with the staff yet? His mother exclaimed while barely holding herself from getting angry. I forgot. Heh heh. His father laughed awkwardly as he replied. Huh? You forgot? Are you for real? Even though she didn't speak loudly, he could clearly see that she was getting agitated and was barely holding herself from yelling out loud. Iha! His father had sensed her anger as well, and thus he remained completely silent. Whatever. For now, let's just ask him to let us enter the school, and you and me will need to have a talk when we reach home. Gulp, gulp. Yes, Mom? His father gulped his saliva. Rest in peace, Dad, he mumbled inwardly. Excuse our intrusion, but would you let us enter the school? His mother spoke to the guard. No, ma'am, I can't do that. I can't let you pass without any appointment. The guards sternly denied their access. Just then, his father pulled out a business card from his pocket and handed it over to the guard. The guard, as soon as he witnessed the card, went over to his booth. Please wait here for a while. He then started to call someone. As soon as he finished speaking, he opened the gate. Please come in. I didn't realize that you were invited by Sakamoto-san. Please forgive my rudeness. The guard apologized as he let them in. It's all right. You're only doing your job. But where do we need to go? His father replied as they walked inside. The school was gigantic. There was a 4-story tall building with a gigantic clock at the entrance of the building. Aside from the main building, there were 4 more buildings. No worries, I'll escort you. The guard then began to escort them towards the principal's office. While they were being escorted towards the principal's office, the guard then began to introduce about the general layout of the school. The main building had almost more than 60 classrooms, several storerooms, several science labs, and other facilities. There were also 2 gymnasium and a large auditorium present in the school. Cafeteria was in a separate building. The football ground was behind the main building and in front of the dense forest. He said that the football ground was surrounded by nets to prevent the ball from going astray, and the whole school was surrounded by sturdy walls. Hiro's anticipation grew as the guard mentioned about the football ground. He was more concerned about the football ground than the various sumptuous facilities provided by the school. Finally, after 10 minutes of walking, they reached the principal's office. It was in the 3rd floor of the main building. I can only escort you up to here, the guard spoke as he left them in front of the door of the principal's office. Knock, knock, please come in. As they knocked the door, they heard a voice of a woman coming from inside the principal's office. Pardon our intrusion. They entered the office. As they walked in the office, they were greeted by 4 peoples. The principal's office was extremely spacious and neatly clean. Several certificates and photos were hung up on the walls of the office. At the center of the room, there was a huge table and sofa on its either side. At the end of the table, there was another table with an opulent chair. In that chair was seated an old man who looked like he was in his 60s, and beside him was a beautiful young lady who looked like she was still in her 30s. And finally at the sofa, there were 2 men seated next to each other. One looked like he was still in his 50s, while the other looked younger than him. Ah, please be seated. The young lady escorted them toward the empty sofa, and as they took their seat, the young man opposite to them spoke. It's a pleasure to meet you once again, Takahashi-san. No, the pleasure is all mine, Sakamoto-san. The young man who greeted them was the scout of the Ukami Elementary School, and the old man who was seated beside him was the head coach of the Ukami Elementary School's football team. This right here is Miura-sensei, and the person seated at the chair in front of us is our principal, Miyamoto Takumi-san, and beside him, the young lady is his PA, Suzuka-sensei. Sakamoto introduced everybody present in the office. Nice to meet you. I'm Takahashi Takashi, and she's my wife, Takahashi Momo, and this is our son, Takahashi Hiro. While he was introducing himself, his wife and his son, Sakamoto, interrupted him. Whoa, we are well aware of your son. Aren't we all gathered here to discuss about his possible admission in our school? While Sakamoto-san was speaking, head coach Miura interrupted him. Sorry if I sound rude, but with all due respect to Sakamoto-san, I can't believe the exaggerated words of Sakamoto-san. His words sounded extremely ridiculous to me when he mentioned about Hiro's skill previously. So if it's all right with you, can we test his skills? Head coach Miura turned his head towards the principal, as if he was asking for his approval. Noticing his intention, Principal Miyamoto Takumi agreed to his request. If it's not a problem with you, Takahashi-san, can we examine Hiro's skill? The principal asked his father. His father hesitated a bit. This wasn't what he had been expecting. He glanced at Sakamoto-san, but he remained completely silent. But he hasn't brought his cleats right now. That's all right, we'll ask one of our players to lend him the boot for a while. the coach replied. Listening to the words of head coach, he could no longer deny them, and thus he hesitantly took a peek at Hero. Without saying any words, Hero nodded his head. Well, I guess we can do that, since it looks like Hero doesn't have any problem with it. Sorry for this unreasonable request, but our reputation is at stake, so we couldn't just take him in without analyzing his skills firsthand. The principal apologetically placed his hands on top of Takashi's shoulder as they stood in the sidelines waiting for Hiro to make his appearance. I'll be blunt with you, we're still a newly formed school, so to raise our reputation, our school committee had decided to invest in football. So it's really crucial for us to gather a good team that could perform well in tournaments, and thus, if Hiro can't perform well in this trial, I'm afraid that we can't provide him with scholarship. I hope you can understand what I mean. The principal exclaimed bluntly, without holding back. Upon listening to the words of principal, Takashi looked at his wife, but it seemed like she didn't hear anything at all as she was staring intently at the storeroom beside the pitch. Go to class 4B and tell Mark to come to the pitch. Also tell him to put on his gears. Coach Mira ordered the student who had lent his boots to Hiro. The school was open and the classes were running as usual. It was 11:45 a.m. right now, and there were still 15 minutes left for the lunch break. The ground was open for everybody during school hours, and only after the end of the school, it was reserved for football teams on normal days. After getting dressed in the team's locker room, Hiro made his way towards the pitch. As he made his way towards the pitch, he intently stared at the pitch in front of him. The ground was much bigger than his expectation. He could tell that the pitch was almost 130 yards long and 100 yards wide. It had almost the same measurements as those of the professional football grounds. There were also few posts lying in the ground. The permanent goal post was designed for professional players rather than for kids, and thus there were 2 more pairs of goal posts. The size of one pair of the goal posts was the same as that of the futsal, and the other pair was a mini post. Not only had they provided him with the cleats, but they had also provided him with the team's jersey. The jersey of Okami Elementary School's football team was plain black, with golden stripes around neck and cuff. The logo resembled the shape of a wolf's head, which was silver white. Who's that? Had I seen him before somewhere? He was confused by the appearance of a new person in the pitch. Aside from the 4 people in principal's office, there was a new face in the ground. A man who looked like he was still in his 20s was arranging the training equipments in the ground, and somehow he was getting a feeling of nostalgia from that person. Come over here, quick, Hiro. While he was wondering about the identity of the new face, he heard the voice of Coach Mira. Hearing his voice, he ran towards Coach Mira. Look, I want you to dribble past those cones zigzag as fast as you can. But there's a catch. As you go left, you can only use your left foot, and as you go right, you can only use your right foot. Also, you can't touch the cone, and neither can you kick the ball far away from the cone. Did you understand? Yes, sir. As he stood in front of the cones, he noticed that the gap between the cones was barely enough to fit 2 balls. The gaps were extremely tight, and if he slipped even a bit, he'd have touched the cone. The drill was extremely difficult. Without perfect ball control, the drill was near to impossible. Ding! Side mission unlocked. Complete the drills set up by coach with astonishing result and impress the coach. Reward upon completion. 1 roulette ticket. Penalty. You'll lose stats randomly. Huh? Are you kidding me? Lose stat? I freaking spent so much time to gain the stat, and you're saying that I'd have to lose it because of one simple quest? Hiro was extremely agitated by the words of the system. He had spent almost a year to raise his attributes, but the system was threatening to decrease his stats if he failed. Seeing the audacity of the system, he felt mocked by the system. Beep! As soon as the coach blew the whistle, Hiro started to dribble the ball. To complete the quest as fast as possible, he performed elastico continuously with both his feet. He'd perform a elastico with his right foot and follow up with another elastico with his left foot. He performed elastico without a break for more than 18 times. Beep! 47 seconds. I can't believe it. He completed the whole drill in 47 seconds. It didn't even take 1 minute for him to pass 18 cones. Plus, the gap was ridiculously small. The coach's jaw dropped, and his eyes were wide open upon witnessing the unbelievable feat demonstrated by Hiro. For a while, the coach couldn't speak anything. He was completely speechless. He stood like a stone statue while looking at his stopwatch. His parents and the principal had the same expression similar to that of the coach. Even the person who was arranging the drills revealed the same expression as that of the coach. Nobody could believe their eyes. "Coach? Coach!" He called out for Coach, who was staring blankly at his stopwatch with his jaws wide open. "Oh, yes, yes. Now let's test your speed. Sprint as fast as you can towards the center of the pitch." "Yes, sir. Beep." To increase his speed, Hiro put all of his body weight in his toes and dashed forward with explosive strength. Beep! 17 seconds. How can a kid run this fast? Whoa! The coach couldn't believe that a kid who was barely 6 years old sprinted 75 yards in 17 seconds. However, that wouldn't be the last of the surprise he would be getting during that trial. Hiro completely shattered every expectations of the coach. "Mark is here, coach." As he was performing the individual drills, a 5 feet tall kid made his way towards the pitch. With a tan skin and blonde hair, he looked like a foreigner. "Huh? He doesn't look like Japanese," Hiro mumbled, looking at him. "Come here, Hiro. Let me introduce you to him. This kid with blonde hair is our team's goalkeeper. His name is Mark Weto, aka Titan. And Mark, he's our new recruit, Takahashi Hiro. Japanese? I thought that he'd be a foreigner." Hiro's eyes were wide open in shock. "Ha ha ha, yes, he's Japanese. His mother is German and his father is Japanese. That's why he looks like a foreigner. But rest assured, he's Japanese." The coach revealed that Mark was half German and half Japanese, and he could clearly see why he was called Titan. He was ridiculously tall for an elementary-level school kid. As they finished their introduction, the coach ordered Mark to head over towards the goalpost. However, he didn't place him in the post for kids. Rather, he placed him in front of the post for adults. After that, the coach told him to score a free kick against Mark from 30 yards away to test his shooting power and shooting technique. As he stood 30 yards away from the post, the person who was arranging the drills placed few mannequins to act as a wall in front of him, and he began to shoot the ball. Chatter! Chatter! A huge crowd of students gathered around the sidelines of the pitch. "Oi, what's happening over there?" one of the students asked another student while pointing his finger at the crowd ahead. "I don't know, but there's a kid who's barely 4 feet tall scoring goal against Mark." "Huh, Mark? You mean the school football team's captain and the Titan goalkeeper?" "Yes, he's scoring goals effortlessly against that Mark." He must be scoring penalties." "But even scoring penalties against Mark is incredible. But he's scoring against him from 30 yards free kick." "Are you for real? If you don't believe me, then why don't you go and see for yourself?" As they finished their conversation, both of them rushed towards the pitch. There in the pitch, Hiro stood in front of the ball, 30 yards away from the goalpost. Mark looked extremely tired. As he kicked the ball flew with a rapid velocity towards the upper right corner. Mark jumped towards the ball, but he couldn't even touch the ball. Whoa, goal! As the time passed, more and more students started to show in front of the pitch, and the cheers of the crowd only intensified as the clock ticked. Witnessing the huge crowds of students, the principal started to get anxious. He feared that the trial would disrupt the school schedule, and thus he started to walk towards Coach Mura. "I think we've seen enough, Coach, haven't we?" As he walked closer to Coach Mura, he tried to stop the trial. "We still haven't tested him enough," the coach grunted. "Sigh, the crowd is getting out of control, so it's best that we stop the trial for now. Just tell me, would you like to sign him in your team or not?" Principal Miyamoto tried to convince Coach Miura, who wasn't willing to end the trial. But as Coach Miura noticed the huge crowd of students, he reluctantly agreed to Principal's suggestion. "It's not whether I want him or not, Principal Miyamoto. We must definitely have him. Even if we have to provide him with additional incentive, we mustn't let him go. I can bet my name on it that he's a generational talent that only shows once in several centuries." After witnessing Hiro's skill firsthand, Coach Miura was full of Hiro's praises. "I understand, Coach." "Hero, you can stop now," Coach Miura commanded. And just like that, Hero was signed by Ukami Elementary School. Not only did he get a full scholarship, but the school decided to sponsor him with every equipment he required for his training. The sponsorship included jerseys, boots, shin guards, balls, etc. Ding! Congratulations for the host for completing the task. One roulette ticket has been awarded for the host for the successful completion of the quest. Due to the excellent results shown by the host has been granted with a silver ticket instead of a bronze ticket. Please use the ticket in the roulette wheel. "I'll save it for now. I'll check it later in the night," he mumbled. After a long, hectic day, he could finally rest. While his father and mother were discussing with each other, he was lying in his bed. Even after the trial, he somehow finished his remaining sets of daily mission in the evening, regardless of his fatigue. It was such a hectic day, but I'm thankful for God that it went all right. Right, I still have that roulette ticket to use. Let's check it out before going to sleep. Status window. As he mentioned status window, the blue panel appeared before his eyes. After scrolling for a while, Hero clicked on the roulette section. Just as he clicked the roulette section, the system directed him towards another page. There in the panel, a roulette wheel appeared in front of him. Inside the wheel, there were many cards of different colors, but he couldn't see what was written in the card. One single silver roulette ticket detected. "Would you like to use your ticket?" "Yes." Just as he agreed, all of a sudden the wheel started to spin and all those different colored cards changed into silver color cards. After spinning for 5 seconds, the wheel stopped spinning and the arrow pointed at one of the cards. "Oh, what's this?" Even though the mechanism of the system was quite simple, Hero was having trouble figuring out the working mechanism of the system. "Would you like to open your cards?" "Yes." Ding! Congratulations! The host has gained a new skill. Skill, perseverance. Skill info. The host can get unlimited stamina during the usage of this skill regardless of his fatigue. Skill CD, 24 hours. Skill duration, 15 minutes. Damn, I can probably use this skill every time the game goes into extra time. With the usage of this skill, I can completely catch the opponent team off guard. Just when did this system get so generous? Now I really wonder what kind of ridiculous skills are hidden behind other cards. Hero smiled cheekily while reading the skill description. "Oh, system, can you explain in detail about the working mechanism of the roulette wheel?" Even though he had gained a new skill from the roulette wheel, he was still confused about the working mechanism of the roulette wheel. So to better understand the working mechanism of the roulette wheel, Hero inquired the system. Roulette wheel. A section of the system where the host can get rewards at random. The rewards drawn by the host are completely random, and it entirely depends on host's luck. I see the rewards are at random, and roulette wheel is just like a lucky wheel. But what about the tickets? The host can gain tickets by completing the quest given by the system. Different tickets grant different rewards. Bronze ticket grants random attributes. Silver ticket grants random skills. Golden ticket grants the ability to copy random talent of any player in the world, and diamond ticket grants other attributes, skills, and talents excluding football. Note: the host can only gain the talent of the players who are currently playing or have played professionally. The future players will not be included. I understand everything mentioned by the system, but I can't understand that diamond ticket part. A player needs other abilities beside football as he/she progresses forward. For example, he/she would need to speak multiple languages, deal with press and media, etc. And thus hosts can draw other skills from the diamond ticket to make the host's life more easier. Oh, I get it now. Indeed, to have a successful career in football, the player needs to tackle many things beside football as well. Many players in Europe fail to live up to their potential due to language barriers after all. He finally felt like that he understood the working mechanism of the roulette wheel. However, he was getting extremely sleepy due to the day's exhausting events. Unable to keep his eyes open, he fell asleep while reading the descriptions provided by the system. Even after enrolling to Ukami Elementary School, the orientation for the new students would start after 2 weeks, and thus he'd have to wait for another 2 weeks to finally attend the school. In the meantime, he continued to practice diligently by himself. With the training equipment sponsored by the school, he could train even more effectively than before. "Hero, come fast or else we'll be late for school," his mother yelled from downstairs. While his mother was yelling, he stood in front of the posters. Looking at the murals of the famous footballers, he whispered, "Wait for me. Someday I'll catch up to you." "Are you coming or do I have to come to you?" Sensing danger, he grabbed his backpack and ran downstairs. But regardless, he still got scolded by his mother. "Just why do you always get late? It's your first day at school and you're already getting late." He reached the school at exactly 7:55 a.m., just 5 minutes before the beginning of orientation. Since the people of Japan are punctual people, most of them had already entered the school, and thus he couldn't see anybody besides him in front of the gate. And as he walked towards the gate, his mother held his hands and whispered while revealing a warm, gentle smile, "Do your best." Seeing her smile, he couldn't stop himself from hugging her. He wrapped his arms around her and hugged her tightly. "I was really worried seeing you mature at such a young age." His mother's voice shook as she exclaimed her worry. Even without looking at her face, he could clearly feel the tears in her face. For past few months, his actions were more of an adult than a child, and even though his parents didn't show any changes, they were still worried about his changes. Even though he was a 27-year-old from inside, but he still had an appearance of a 5-year-old kid, and no parent in the world would want their kid to act mature from an early age when they should be acting immature. "I'm sorry for making you worried, Mom." He apologized while squeezing her even more tightly. "It's all right. Just remember, no matter how much you change, you're still going to be my little hero." She stroked his hair gently as she reassured Hero that no matter how much he changed, he'd still be their kid. They stayed like that for a while. Ding dong! The school bell rang all of a sudden. "You should probably go now." She pulled him apart and asked him to leave. While wiping off the tears from his face, he nodded his head. "Bye-bye. I'll pick you up later in the evening. Do your best." Finally, after a mother-son moment, she sent him off. As he walked towards the gate, she kept her gaze fixated at him. "Children do grow within a blink of an eye," she whispered with a smile on her face. For the whole time when they were hugging each other, the guard was keeping his gaze fixated at them. He knew that Hero was going to be late, but he still didn't want to disturb them. And thus, he let them be. Even when the gates were closed, he didn't question Hero for being late. He simply let him in without asking any questions. Chatter, chatter. Just as he walked inside the auditorium where the orientation for the new students was being held, he noticed a huge crowd of students. Until most of the students were gathered in groups while only few were standing alone. The students who were gathered in groups were cheerfully conversing with each other, while the students who were all alone looked really anxious. He shook his head from left to right, but there wasn't even a single person whom he was familiar with. Every faces were new to him. Even in his previous life, he didn't have many friends. "Sigh. Guess I'll be alone this time as well," he murmured. Just then, one of the students made her way towards the stage and announced, "All of the students are requested to stand in queue of their respective classes." After the announcement, everybody started to form a queue. However, he looked absolutely clueless. He didn't have any idea about which of the queues in front of him belonged to his class. "Maybe I missed the earlier announcement because I arrived late." He wondered if he had missed some earlier announcement because of his delay. To save himself from embarrassment, he quickly joined the queue, which was close to him. As everybody lined up in a queue, the principal made his way toward the stage. "Good morning, students. I'm Miyamoto Takumi, the principal of Ukami Elementary School." After introducing himself, the principal began to talk about the history of the school, and for a while the lecture continued. Hiro started to get bored by the boring lecture of principal. Out of boredom, he started to wander his eyes. As he wandered his eyes, he noticed that he wasn't the only one who was getting bored by the principal's lecture. But even so, nobody dared to make a single noise. While wandering his eyes, he caught a glimpse of a familiar face. Far in the left corner, a student with a ridiculously tall height caught his attention. Wasn't he the keeper of the school's football team? But what was his name again? Despite remembering his face, he forgot his name. Our school focuses both on the academics and extracurricular activities, and our school offers a wide range of clubs. So students are encouraged to join one within a week's time. And before we end the orientation, I'd like to add one more thing. Welcome to Ukami Elementary School. Finally, after 15, 20 minutes, the principal ended his lecture and dismissed the students. Nothing much happened during the school hours. Neither did he interact with anybody, nor did anybody approach him. It was a peaceful day. Ding, dong. At exactly 3 p.m., the school ended. Before you go, make sure to visit your respective clubs, the teacher exclaimed while collecting his books. As soon as the teacher left the classroom, he dashed outside. He was the first student to leave his classroom. Since it was his first day of school, he didn't pack his books. Instead, his bag contained his cleats and jersey. He might have not remembered most of the things regarding the school, but he didn't forget where the ground was located and where he needed to change his clothes. "Why's nobody here yet?" he mumbled as he stood in front of the pitch, all alone. "Oh, you're here quite early." The same guy from the time of his trial who helped the coach with the trial appeared behind him. "Hello, I'm Takahashi Hiro." He bowed his head as he introduced himself. "I know about your identity. By the way, I'm Aomini Honda, the assistant coach of Ukami Elementary School. It'll take a while for them to show up on the pitch, so why don't you warm up for a while?" Honda suggested. As suggested by Honda, he began to stretch his body. After stretching, he started to run around the pitch. "Aomini Honda, where have I heard that name?" While jogging, he wondered why that name felt so familiar. Right, isn't he the future coach of U21 team of Japan? He finally remembered about Honda's identity. Even though he never made it to national team in his previous life, he kept tab of everyone who made significant impact in the national team. And Aomini Honda was one of the person who brought a change in Japanese football. At just 37 years of age, he'd coached the under-21 team of Japan. Even though he wouldn't lead the under-21 team of the nation to a major international trophy, they would still finish at high-ranking positions regardless, every time under his guidance. "Come over here, Hiro." While he was reminiscing about the identity of Coach Honda, he heard the voice of Coach Miura calling out his name. He was so engrossed in his thoughts that he didn't even realize that he had been running for more than 20 minutes all alone. But finally, after hearing the voice of Coach Miura, he returned back to his senses. "Huff, Huff, who's that guy? A newbie? Isn't he that guy who demolished our keeper completely?" Other players had already arrived in the pitch. They were all dressed in school's jersey and were chattering among themselves. "Okay, everyone gather up." The coach ordered everyone to gather around him. The senior players started to gather in a circle around the coach. However, they didn't leave any space for the newbies. "Today, I'd like to introduce the newbies who'll be joining our team. Hiro, Sasaki, Jen, Akashi, and Ken come forward." Along with him, the coach called out for 4 other players. Jen looked quite familiar among others. "Nice to meet you. I'm Jen from Class 1B. I like to play as a striker. Please take care of me." "I'm Akashi from Class 1C. I play as a defensive midfielder. Please take care of me." "I'm Ken from Class 1A. My position is goalkeeper. Please take care of me." "I'm Sasaki, also from Class 1A. I can play any role aside from the goalkeeper. Please take care of me." All 4 of them introduced themselves, but every single one of them looked extremely anxious, and only Hiro was left. After they finished their introduction, Hiro stepped forward and began to introduce himself. Unlike the previous 4, he wasn't nervous even a bit. After all, to him, they were all a bunch of kids. "Nice to meet you. I'm Takahashi Hiro from Class 1B. I like to play as a playmaker. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. Please look after me." He bowed his head while introducing himself. "Ha ha, ha ha." As they finished their introduction, Hiro could vividly hear the faint laughs of the other senior players. "Okay, that's all for the introduction. As our tradition, we'll now play a welcome match between the newcomers and the seniors. Since there are only 5 newcomers, we'll play a mini-game of 5 if 5 under rain," the coach announced. "Huh, it's not fair. How can he make us face against the senior squad on our first day? The other four newbies started to whine. Fear was vivid in their eyes, and by no means he thought that they could stand a chance against the senior squads. When the players admit defeat even before the start of the game, they're more than likely to lose the game. However, unlike them, he was determined to win against the senior team, even if he had to do it all by himself. Beep! The game started with Ken as the goalkeeper, Sasaki and Akashi as defenders, finally Hiro and Gen as the forwards. Since the game was played 5v5, it was played only in one half of the pitch with mini posts. Huh, what's this? Why isn't the coach playing that tall goalkeeper? Hiro mumbled as he witnessed Mark standing in the sidelines. As Gen was charging the ball forward, the ball got stolen from him, and he quickly lost position. The senior players didn't even give them a chance to defend as they smoothly passed through Sasaki and Akashi. Ken proved to be useless against the senior players as well. He conceded the goal from between his legs in less than a minute of the starting. Don't mind, we can still do it, Hiro tried to encourage his teammates. However, they continued to make mistakes. Gen was extremely overconfident. Even though he got his ball stolen many times, he didn't stop charging the ball forward all by himself. Pass, pass, Hiro shouted. However, Gen ignored his calls and continued to attack all by himself. The senior players rushed at him and quickly cornered him. Pass, pass, Hiro kept on shouting. But Gen kept on ignoring him. Gen was playing extremely selfish and only wanted to score all by himself. He didn't pass and tried to dribble past the opponent defenders. But this time as well, the ball got stolen from him. He couldn't retain the ball. What is he doing? Don't he know how to pass the ball? Akashi exclaimed in frustration. Gen's selfish play costed them another goal. Why don't you pass the ball? Akashi walked towards Gen and grabbed his collar. Beep! Honda-san blew the whistle to warn Akashi of his behavior. Shh! Akashi clicked his tongue as he let go of Gen's collar. It hadn't even been 10 minutes, and they were already down by 2 goals.